Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. On today's video, I will be reviewing the San Martin SN0054 GB1. Now, of course, you guys can see clearly what watch this is homaging. There's no need for me to tell you which one it is. And San Martin recently have started to revisit some of the watches they've already released. Now, this watch is not a brand new release. They've already got a version out there. They've already got a non-GMT and a GMT version. However, due to the new release of the Seiko NH34, they have started to revisit some of the watches that were using the Hansa 6460 GMT movement and started putting in this Seiko NH34. Now, what's that done? It has slightly reduced the price. Now, the one I have in front does come in two different colors. You've got a black dial, which you can see in front of you, and you've also got a white dial with orange accents. And now this is priced at, away from the sales, at around £250. Now, in comparison, the 6460 version is actually priced £50 more. But the Seiko GMT gives much more reliability. It gives a much more serviceable watch, with the movements now available on AliExpress quite freely. You can replace the movement if something goes bad after 2 or 3 years. Now, that being said, what specifications do you get for your £250 out of the sale prices? Well, you get your normal specifications that San Martin give. They give you stainless steel case, stainless steel bracelet. You've also got a top hat low dome sapphire crystal, or a low hat sapphire crystal. You've got a fixed brushed 24-hour bezel. Obviously the Seiko NH34 GMT movement, which is exactly the same as the NH35 in terms of running specifications, reliability, accuracy. However, it's got the addition of a GMT hand, now, which is an office GMT, not a true GMT. You also got 100 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown and a screw down case back. Now, one of the nicer things about this dial, it is a matte black dial. However, it doesn't have that grayed out look or that washed out look. So there's a bit more black in this, therefore giving you a nicer contrast against the background. The whole dial is printed, including the logo. And when it comes to the hour markers, you can see you've got this layered applied lume in place of the indices. Now, that's going to be a good indicator that the lume should be good on this watch, because the indices are slightly raised off the surface of the dial. Now, I really like that orange accent. You've got orange text which states GMT and the orange GMT hand. And one thing with the handset of the GMT, you'll notice it's got a great length on there. It does hit the edge of that minute track. The handset itself is a snowflake style handset. The hands are flat and polished. Now, with these flat polished hands, what you do get is, under certain lighting conditions, they appear darker than they are, which does help with visibility depending on the dial configuration. Now, unfortunately, with this particular one, you can see that there is a bit of dirt on that second hand, and that goes back to just, basic Chinese QC. And I say Chinese factories because they have been known across, a lot of Chinese models that they don't have the best cleanliness methods. Therefore, you will find odd speck of dust here or there, or as you can see, a bit of grime on that second hand. Let's see how good the lume is on this dial. I expect it to be quite good. You've got great application of lume. Full BGW9, very thorough layers applied, all even. You can see the same amount of lume applied on the handset as well as the dial, so it's all pretty uniform there. The only observation I'd make is on that GMT hand, you do want a different style of lume. Usually companies do use C3 just to differentiate it. However, that is quite subjective, but I am impressed with the amount of lume applied. I think you will have good longevity, and this is as expected from San Martin. Now, when we look away from the dial and look at elsewhere on the watch, what I do like is that low top hat sapphire crystal. I'll make a point of distinguishing between high dome or high top hat sapphire crystals and these low ones. Usually Pagani Design use the high top hat sapphire crystals, but I think these low ones look a bit better. Obviously it saves on thickness, but you just get, I think, a bit more clarity out of there. You can see that is absolutely crystal clear, and just that domage around the edges, gives you just a slight bit of distortion. So I like the use of that crystal. Now, we move on to the finishing. We know San Martin are absolutely the best at finishing, and this is no different. If you look at that fixed static bezel, you've got the 24-hour markers on there, a GMT fixed bezel, brushed ever so nicely. You've got hairline brushing, and it goes out in a sort of sunburst pattern. That's been done very well. And just along the edge of that bezel, you've got a very clean and crisp polished highlight. Now, that does help distinguish the bezel from the case, because as you can see, the whole watch is fully brushed, giving it a very tool-like sporty appearance. Now, away from the bezel, just move on to the A face of that case. You've got linear brushing, very fine brushing, not as soft as satin brushing, but I don't think this is the look they were going for. You can see this hairline brushing where it's slightly coarser. It does allow you to see the grain, and it also directs the light across its surface. So I really like how they've done that. and it is also perfectly matched with those end links. There's no difference in brushing there. So again, a very uniform look, which I really like. And they've also put the use of those chamfered polished edges along that side of the case, along the lug tips. And that's one of my most favorite things to see on watch cases. And they've got very clean transitions, very cleanly done, very nice crisp lines, and the brushing is very uniform as well. So the case quality, the quality of finishing is definitely still at a high standard that you see on most of the watches. Now you've got the San Martin logo across that crown. Glad to see they're not going with that dollar sign that they've put on some random watches, but sticking to that hex logo. So yeah, very well finished, nothing different from a lot of the watches. So you do get a high level of finishing, for the price that you are paying. Moving on to the bracelet, the specs of the bracelet are as per usual. Female end links, solid end links, 3-link solid link bracelet with screw-in links. Very premium feel in hand. That clasp is gorgeous, very well finished. We see this clasp on most of their watches. That very soft brushing across the top, that large logo, just so much detail into this. Those polished bevel edges along the side of the clasp, 4 micro adjusts. The only thing which I've said on my last video, the last time I reviewed the San Martin, is we now need to see some divers extensions, just as something additional on the bracelet. I know this is not a dive watch, but still you can find watches at a cheaper price point now. They're starting to give us extensions, whether they're basic or simple ones, besides the point, it's just an extra added feature. Now the sides of the bracelet links are fully polished where the screws sit, and it is done well. And this bracelet thankfully does not have any sharp edges. It does have a defined edge, but it's not as sharp as I've seen on the other models. I'll point that out if I ever see it. You've got a decent taper as well, 20 mil going down to just around 16 millimeters and up to 18 at the clasp. So that's a very nice taper and usual high quality bracelet. All that remains is to put this on wrist and then give you guys a quick summary. Now here is the San Martin SN0054 NH34 GMT watch on my 6.5-inch wrist, and the watch does fit quite well. You've got a 39mm case, however at the bezel it is 40mm. So it will wear like a 39, but visually you'll see something just slightly bigger due to that bezel overhang. Now you've also got a 13mm thick watch, and most of that is going to be down to that boxed sapphire crystal. The lug to lug is 48mm, just slightly longer on the lug to lug, but I think in terms of the diameter of the watch, I think it is quite a proportionate lug to lug to have. And you've got a 20mm lug width. And the watch does sit beautifully on wrist, does have a pretty straight case, and you get a touch bit of kind of overhang towards the ends of those tips, but that female end link bracelet does kind of help that. You'll find the bracelet actually touching the sides of your wrist and kind of sloping down where it needs to, and it doesn't feel out of place. The overall weight with the bracelet with no links removed is around 145 grams, so a decent weight, and it is pretty evenly spread out across the bracelet. And this is quite a popular model from San Martin, both in the 6460 movement and of course in this Seiko NH34. And I think they have done a good job when they've made this watch. They've covered every aspect. It does pay really good homage to the watch they are actually homaging, and yeah, there's nothing else really to critique them on this. I think they have done quite well with everything. I've only seen a couple of issues, which basically goes down to housekeeping, right? Just a bit of tightening up on the QC. And I think with this particular model, overall, anyone who buys it will be pretty happy with this. I just think if it was around £30 cheaper, that would be a really good price. So around the £220 mark, that's where this watch really needs to sit. And as I said, in the sales, you do lose that £20–30 on the discount, which is probably the real value of this watch. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.